Hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful and happy day. In the previous episode, James saw Diep sitting behind Tung on his motorbike. No explanations, no phone calls, only a storm of jealousy and a heart breaking in silence. But in this episode, everything will change. James uncovers a shocking truth, and if he doesn't act in time, Diep will be the one in danger, and their love could fall apart. Will James find the courage to make things right and protect the woman he loves? Will Diep still have enough faith to forgive him after all those days of being left behind? Join me as we step into today's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, so you won't miss a single moment. Morning light slipped through the kitchen window, spilling across the table in shimmering streaks, like a misty tablecloth draped by dawn. James's mother, her hair neatly tied back, stood at the stove preparing breakfast. With careful hands, she scooped spoonfuls of fried rice from the smoking pan, the rising steam curling around her soft waves of hair. The fragrance of fried shallots filled the air, mingling with the gentle sizzle, a tender symphony of a family morning. In the room beyond, James still lay motionless on the wooden bed. A green blanket covered him, yet it could not warm the chill in his chest. He wasn't sleeping. His eyes closed, then opened again. The pale ceiling above blurred with faint light. He turned onto his side, pressing a hand against his chest. His heartbeat was steady, but his thoughts were in disarray. He remembered Diep's eyes, the eyes that once calmed him after storms. Then came the image of her sitting behind Tung, her hair flying in the wind. A single moment, yet it cut deep into his heart. He lifted a hand to his forehead, rubbing as though to erase a heavy dream. But the more he rubbed, the clearer the torment became. Was I too weak or too selfish? James asked himself, but no answer came. Inside him was a war between reason and emotion, between trust and hurt. Outside, his mother's gentle voice called, "James, breakfast is ready, dear." He closed his eyes for a beat, then answered softly, "Yes, I'll be right there, Mom." His voice carried the same weariness as his soul, sagging under the weight of a night without Diep, without answers, and without the mercy of sleep. And elsewhere, Diep sat on the ground, her faded floral blouse streaked with dust, one hand gripping a saw, the other steadying a bamboo pole. Each stroke of the blade moved back and forth, slow yet firm. Beads of sweat trickled from her furrowed brow, dampening her collar. Beside her, bamboo sticks lay neatly shaved and stacked in a tidy row. Under her patient hands, the frame of a birdcage slowly took shape. No words, no sound, apart from the rasp of the saw and the dull thud of hammer on nail. Only the small, quiet figure, blending into the still garden, where chickens clucked faintly in the distance, and sunlight fell gently through the leaves. At last, the delicate cage was complete. She carried it carefully to the tree, hung it for nesting, tied each knot with care, placed food inside, then stepped back to look. In her eyes flickered a small spark of joy at her morning's labor, but it was shadowed by melancholy. Diep returned indoors, settling by the crackling fire. The glow of the flames lit her weary face, while wisps of smoke curled upward, hazy as her troubled thoughts. She rested her chin on her hand, staring blankly at the burning wood. The snap of firewood cracked through the hush, mingling with the wind whispering through the bamboo fence. Outside, the chickens shuffled back to their coop, but within the dark kitchen, there was only her, alone. Her hand brushed at her eyes. Then she dropped her head onto her knees and wept like an abandoned child. The sobs were small, muffled, as if afraid to be heard. Yet they were a release for the loneliness pent up inside her. No father, no mother. And now even James has left me behind. The words never passed her lips, but they burned clear in her tear-stained eyes. She was used to living alone, used to doing everything by herself, but never had she felt so fragile. In the small kitchen, among smoke, fire, and ash, a young woman wept quietly. No one knew, no one to console her. Only a fragile heart trembling from sorrow, from hurt, and from a love still left unanswered. In the sunlit living room, the wall clock ticked steadily, its second hand marking each beat, tick, tick, into the quiet air. James sat beside his mother. A plate of steaming fried rice lay before him, but he only lifted a few bites before setting the spoon down again. His mother watched silently. The son, who was once calm and confident, now seemed strangely subdued. Her eyes lingered on his shadowed sockets, the tousled hair, the shirt unpressed unlike his usual self. She said nothing. She didn't need to ask. As a mother, she could sense when her child was straining to hide his weariness. James sat hunched slightly forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze fixed on the table, as though chasing a thought he couldn't unravel. His face looked cold, but not the cold of indifference, the cold of a man trying to keep himself from breaking apart. His mother set her book aside, turning to him with eyes gentle yet firm. Her composure was not only the wisdom of experience, but also the worry carefully veiled after years of motherhood. The worry of seeing her son let love slip away out of pride and suspicion. About you and Diep, I think you should face her directly and ask. You can't live in doubt. Each perspective brings a different conclusion, my son. Her words sank deep, and James felt clarity stir within him. He promised his mother he would go to Diep to clear things once and for all. Her short counsel was like water soaking into parched soil, reminding him that what he lacked all along was not reason, but the courage to face her. James quickly sought out a trusted friend, the one who often provided him with vital hidden information, and from him came the truth. John had used tongue as a pawn to drive James and Diep apart. By keeping his distance, James had only played into John's scheme. The revelation struck like lightning. Everything inside James cracked open. All week he had been tormenting himself and her for nothing. He had misunderstood. He cursed himself for not trusting the woman he loved, for pushing her into danger, for turning his back when she needed him most. James leapt onto his bike. The engine roared, tearing through the wind. The motorcycle flew past wildflower hillsides, down sun-dappled winding slopes, past tall eucalyptus whispering like voices of reproach. Trees and leaves blurred along the roadside, dissolving into speed. But in James's mind, everything grew sharper. Diep's words, the countless times she had waited in vain, the unanswered calls. Why hadn't he trusted her? Why had he let doubt fester over a fleeting moment? The more he thought, the deeper the ache. It felt as if he were chasing himself, the confused, selfish, fragile version he now longed to leave behind. Sunlight filtered through the trees, dancing across the windshield, reflecting, his brown eyes burning with resolve. This time, he would not lose her. The sky churned with heavy gray clouds, the wind howling through the trees. The first drops of rain began to fall, pattering against the thatched roof, striking the cracked red earth left parched after long dry days. James sped along the slippery mountain road, his tires spraying white arcs of water to either side. Inside him surged a storm of urgency and regret, stabbing at his chest like 1,000 sharp needles. He was too late. The rain thickened, drumming hard against rusted tin, leaving dark streaks across the roof. Beneath the low eaves, a young woman sat with her head buried in her arms, her shoulders trembling with each muffled sob. It was Diep. No one beside her, no one left to lean on. Only the lingering scent of wood smoke clinging to her tangled hair, and the rain dripping steadily, seeping deep into the ache of her heart. Through the cracks in the bamboo wall, a shaft of light fell across her gaunt face, swollen red from tears. She had cried long and hard for the misunderstandings, for James's silence, for carrying alone the tearing weight between love and hurt. James stopped his bike, rushing toward the wooden house. He froze at the sight of Diep curled inside. His gaze faltered, his chest clenched tight. Through the roar of the downpour he could not shout, yet he spoke, his voice low, but seeping into the air like a plea. Diep. Slowly, she lifted her head. Her eyes were red and swollen from hours of tears. Her hair hung loose, damp with rain and smoke, her pale face still carrying the tenderness that had once calmed James's heart through every storm. And then Diep ran to him. No time to think, no moment to hesitate. She threw herself into James's arms, clutching him as though holding on to the most precious thing slipping away. A sob broke free. Her head pressed against his chest, her small fists pounding over and over against his rain-soaked shirt. Why did you leave me? Why didn't you trust me? You're all I have. Each blow carried the weight of days in humiliation, loneliness, and cold nights waiting for a message that never came. Rain streamed through her hair, blending with her salty tears, soaking into her trembling shoulders. James stood still. He didn't speak. He didn't justify. He didn't turn away. He only opened his arms, gathering her in, holding her with all the regret and sorrow he had never spoken aloud. His hand moved gently along her back, slow and steady, as though easing the silent wounds long buried in her heart. His eyes closed, rain sliding down his cheek, though his soul had been drenched long before. The wind swept through the trees, carrying the sound of their ragged breaths. Two souls trying to mend themselves with an embrace that seemed simple, yet held within it an entire world of broken love. She collapsed against him, her fists loosening, not striking anymore, only clinging, as if letting go, even for a breath, would mean losing him forever. And James, in his heart, 1TR, rang clearer than ever. I was wrong, but this time, I will not lose you again. The last raindrops still clung to the leaves, dripping softly onto the damp earth. The world was strangely quiet. Now and then, a small bird chirped on a branch, the first notes of life returning after the storm. Diep sat in silence, her eyes still swollen red from the long sobbing. But this time, she no longer forced herself to be strong. Her voice rose gently, steady as water flowing through stone, as she told James everything. What had happened, the misunderstandings she could not explain, the wounds of abandonment she had tried to swallow alone. James sat beside her, holding her hand. His grip was firm but not crushing, just enough to say he was still here, still listening, still believing her. In his eyes flickered remorse, tenderness, and gratitude that the woman before him had still chosen to stay. Diep lowered her gaze. A single tear slid down her cheek, but this time it was not from bitterness. It was because her heart was softening, beginning to heal. She lifted her eyes to him, no longer filled with reproach, but searching again for the anchor she had once known. James brushed a hand gently over her rain-tangled hair, and in that moment, Diep leaned her head against his shoulder. The gesture, light as it was, carried the weight of forgiveness, of love, of accepting the past so they could move forward. No more words were spoken. Everything was said in silence, in presence, in the warmth of hands clasped together, in the rhythm of two hearts beating as one, beneath the sky now clearing, the storm clouds fading, pale.